good example of that. So one of the things that I like to do about communication and is about everything when I'm talking to cooperatives is to go to the cooperative principles. Now, do these look familiar to any of you? These, okay. Where would you find them if you didn't know about the cooperative principles? Where would you find them? Can you think about a place?
Online, for one.
Yes. Anybody else?
ROC USA.
Yes. And they are not, probably not in all the bylaws templates, but at the end of the bylaws, you will find these principles. And the good news is ROC USA is set up to make sure that these principles are incorporated in all the training that we do. They are baked into the ROC USA model. But one of them is in principle number 2, democratic member control. Men and women serving as elected representatives are accountable to the membership and are organized in a democratic manner, which you are. The other thing is the 5th principle of a cooperative is education, training, and information. So, all of the infrastructure needs and the different things that we work on are very important, as is all of these different cooperative principles. But this one is where, the rubber meets the road in this presentation that we're giving is cooperatives provide education and training for the members, elected representatives. They inform the general public, particularly young people and opinion leaders, about the nature and benefits of cooperation. And I think that, it's also externally with the municipalities that we interact with, but it's also internally. It's easy to forget. I'm in a cooperative right now. I'm working in a cooperative. I don't live in one. I live in a condominium association, and we do have a board of directors, but it's easy for me to forget these principles. And I'm not saying that you have or other communities, ROC communities have, but it's, one of the reason we're focusing on the principles is because it's really our duty to inform the members as best as we can. And Marjorie, I agree. Sometimes we have to get real and say, we want to do really cool stuff. We just need more hands to do it. And we want, it is all of us together. And I know we've said that before in ROC trainings, but it is a principle. So as board leaders, it's our duty to inform and make sure that we're training people on what a cooperative looks like. So we always talk about newsletters. How many of the people here have a regular newsletter in your community? I see Natividad, Benita. Anybody else? Okay, Pat. What about Peggy? Do you have one?
We don't have a regular one.
Okay.
That's something we're going to do, but we've never gotten to a regular one.
Got it.
It's more like quarterly.
Right. And I have a couple, especially if you're long established communities, I've seen them move to a regular, like a quarterly one. Because to me, it would be great to do it more frequently, but I think it's a lot for a board to do. However, one of the things I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about is in Microsoft Word, you can actually pull up a newsletter template. Are folks aware of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. You can go into type file, new, or you select file, new, and then in search for templates, if you put in newsletter, you can plug it in. A lot of the boards are just using a Microsoft newsletter. I've had a couple of boards do just, and it's when I say bare minimum, because they don't have the time. I've had them do a half page to just one side of a newsletter once a month. Of just here's what's coming, or here's what we've done, here's what's coming up. The minutes are available, where they're available, but here's what we're looking at. And we are going to have here's our board meeting dates and on one page, and just get that around or put it somewhere. I know you've probably heard this from others and you've heard it before, but even something as simple as a half page or a page of just something would be great. And then one other thing that we found, and I found, is a Q&A section or a place to solicit questions in that, even at a little at the bottom of the newsletter saying, well, first, what do you think of, can you give us your input on this? Or we're interested in hearing about, the paint color that you think would be good on this, even if it's just one question. And then the other thing is to have a Q&A section. So to ask members that might have submitted questions, if you can put that out to the community and actually answer the question to the community, so everyone can see that, so-and-so had you don't even have to say who asked the question, but a question we received was X, and then here's the answer to that question. So if they had a one page, they might even just do the question and answer at the bottom. And then, or if they did like a 1-page newsletter back and front, they would do the Q&A section on the back. And it has been helpful. Even with like local, I saw one that had local COVID-19 resources on the back. Like people were asking about where should I go for rent, for rent assistance during COVID-19. What's the latest law on that? And a board member was willing to go and research that and get that on the back of a page, double-sided newsletter. So I'm just stirring ideas that I've seen. In a regular newsletter too, something fun, like a recipe or an announcement of like the Halloween treat, something, and then something business. So something fun and something business related. We've had photos of board members or profiles of board members, update on a project in progress with a little more information, interviewing a board member, lender, property manager, or TA, having a board corner, listing upcoming projects, but also maybe which board members are working on which projects, and just a reminder of the committees. And I know some of this is just stuff you already know because you've been doing this so long and been trained, but it's just things to think about. The one other thing that I wanted to say, and I actually want to hear your thoughts on this, is that I know that all boards want to save money, and I want boards to save money, but some of them are really, I've had experience, some of them that are averse to using a copy or a mail service, mailing things. And maybe they will have volunteer stuff envelopes and staple packets, or maybe they'll do that as a board activity. But a lot of folks aren't using a copy service, and because they want to save money. And I've had so many frustrated board members pre and post purchase call me and say, copier jammed 20 times and I don't know what to do. And I believe in the use of a copy or mail service, a copy stuff mail, if you can find that. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on that? I just want to hear your thoughts. Or go ahead, Natividad.
If we have big mailings that we have to do, we take it over to OfficeMax, and ROC USA offers the discount card. And believe me, it saves a ton of money. We also get all of our printing ink from there, and that saves a ton of money because one cartridge is almost $100, and we get 15% discount from ROC USA. So utilize that if you happen to have an OfficeMax or a home, whatever the other one is called, because they're now merged. But that makes a big difference for us. And right now with COVID and an on-site manager, we're not going door to door to drop stuff off. So if there's something big that we have to mail out, we mail it through our post office, which is just up the street. So, and we have Facebook and everything else too if we have to do anything. And we do also do a calendar every month. So there's something, that's what we use instead of writing out a newsletter, because I was the one doing those and it does get to be a bit much. So we just do a calendar.
I love that.
It has all the boxes filled in that need to be, and we do a little bracket on the top that says something. And 1 month for fun, I asked my great-granddaughter to help me fill in every single box. So everything that was in red were her ideas, like the community should eat ice cream, or the community should blow bubbles, just stuff like that. And it said spend the day with Fancy Nancy, and that's our on-site manager. So these were all of her ideas, so we could just do something a little fun and make it a little bit lighter, because we had some COVID cases here, and we needed a break, in something to lighten the mood. So that's what we're doing here.
I love it. I love all of it. I mean, and you know, just the use of copy and mail, like you were saying, just because I don't know, I said it already, but I literally have had board members in tears, like trying to get everything out and printed, you know, with a copier that's okay, but it's definitely not, you know, up for a big professional task of like, you know, 80 packets. So, so yeah, I love that. And I want to get back to the calendar and find out which one you're using when we get later in this presentation, because I have
on Word, just on Word.
On Word? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Because that's an awesome. I've never heard of that, and I love it. So
it's cheap, it's easy, and it doesn't take a ton of time when you don't have a lot of time.
And people are just updated. They're updated.
Yeah. We say happy birthday for everyone in the month of October. And we put in there was new babies. And then on the bottom, there's always 2 extra squares. So, you know, you fill that in with whatever the board kicks in, like clean your garbage can or put tabs on your car or those types of things. So
yeah,
we
I love it.
Fill every space in that we can on the bottom. And if there's anything in there, they know when the board meeting is and the time. They know when garbage day and recycling day is. I kind of forget to make sure I move it a day when it's holiday time, which I will try really hard for the next 3 holidays to remember to do that.
That's awesome.
It helps a ton because then it's a calendar that you can put on your fridge.
I love it. And I'm sure also the one last thing I wanted to point out that Julie and I talked about was just requesting feedback with a targeted question in whatever communication you can do, you know, just asking what people think about one thing or another. And that it goes to the next one. So those are really, I'm talking a lot about print, but I also wanted to tools for communication continued, our online tools. Wait, I think I might have skipped let me just make sure. Hold on a second. So, okay. Yeah, we did that. Just make sure. Yeah, I did it right. I thought I skipped a slide. Okay, so back to online tools. So I've worked with cooperatives that have like tech savvy people in the community or a tech savvy child or grandchild who's willing to help, you know, with these particular tools if people don't have it, or someone like, obviously, Natividad, your community has a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And so ROC USA has a Facebook policy. I sent it out to the new groups in Texas and North Carolina. Have you seen that, Natividad or Julie?
When we first started our Facebook, we had one resident who was very mean to people on there and stuff. So I called Paul and asked him if he could help us develop a policy. Yeah. So that's probably where that started from. And we put that in place, and that has been a big deal for us to make sure that no one's on there that can be bullying anybody whatsoever. So. Right.
Because it really, you know, what I've seen work is that policy, and then, you know, assigning reliable moderators in the community, empowered to remove posts that don't align with the policy. Mm-hmm. In one community, it's a big community of 117 spaces. They have 2 moderators, and they kind of tag team the posts, making sure everybody's staying up and up. And the good news is, in these fires, when people were evacuated, they still use their Facebook page. So the community was all dispersed throughout, you know, in shelters and with relatives, but they were staying, you know, in contact on the Facebook page with these 2 moderators, and the 2 moderators took it upon themselves. These are, you know, those cherished volunteers to get the updates from the fire department on the fire, and they were posting it on the Facebook page, and it was so valuable to the community. So that's, you know, it's also for emergency alerts, and, you know, just there are different services out there that we can talk about, like Nextdoor is another one that people use for communities, but the Facebook page was really critical and has been critical in those situations.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
I would like to get some help on redeveloping the Facebook page, because when I had my own private Facebook and then developed the Facebook for here, because my name was tied to both of them, they shut down the one that I was using and had to do a different one. And it's so not user friendly right now. And so I can't invite people unless they like it first. So it's not user friendly. So people are using my personal one to stay in touch then.
That is something that I found, because they actually need a email.
Yeah.
And so that's why sometimes like the first step would be for the cooperative to have a cooperative email to start the Facebook page with. They did that. They allowed the cooperative to do one of the cooperatives to do that. But I will look into that. I don't have all the answers on that now, but it's something that's really important if we're going to be doing this. And we want the organization to have one so that you don't have to worry about your personal page being compromised or anything. So
it is what it is. It gets the word out for what's needed, and we do have our own email addresses by using the drive that, what is that called? The G Suite?
G Suite.
Yes. So all of us have our own email address. It's just, which one do you
set up? Yeah. So we'll talk about that. That's a good question. I've got it noted that I'll come back to that if not in this presentation later, because it's something that another board member has brought up to me. Like, this is not cool with this Facebook setup. So
no, it's totally not user friendly. And so it's irritating because some people want to know how to get on there and I can't add them. And we've invited outside communities to be on there too. So just so we can stay in touch with others. But I really need some help redesigning that, or else taking this one down and doing a new one altogether.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Pat. I agree with Antividad. There have been a few instances where I've been asked to post something on our Facebook page, a warning about one thing or another. What they were specifically does not come to me right now, but it's been very difficult to post there.
Yeah.
Even at her request. So, that would be wonderful. Okay. I don't know how to do that. I wish I did, how to redesign, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be worth like checking in with a Facebook person to do a training for, cooperatives on just setup and also to give them information about what's not working. So
the whole thing.
Yeah.
When I'm at work and we got to get something out and that's what happened was I needed Pat to help post something for an emergency and it didn't work. So.
Okay. So we'll work on that. The other thing is group texting. The great things about group texting: immediate communication, problem solving, quick communication, and it can be printed. We got into a pickle in North Carolina, brand new community, brand new CTAP, and the owner tried to pull out of the sale like 3 weeks in. And it was on the weekend and the board was like, hey, Julie, what do we do? And actually, with a new CTAP director there as well, we were all looped in. And they were able to do an action outside of a meeting on text. And the attorney approved it because we could print out the discussion and actually the votes. They actually voted by text. I've never done that before, but the attorney was part of the text and he said it was okay as long as we could save those texts. I asked them to vote yes. It was to actually involve the attorney because the attorney needed to get involved with the seller trying to pull out of the sale. So we did that, and I've never done that before, but the attorney said as long as you can print it and it'll be published in notes in your record, you can do that. So anyway, I'm not saying I'm condoning voting by text, but I'm saying that in an emergency like that, we got it taken care of over the weekend so that the attorney could begin working on the deal. So the other thing is emergency alerts, obviously, for group texting. The best scenario is to have the text, the phone numbers for every single member. Because if you've got a select group texting, it brings up exclusivity of people who are missing the information. So I think that's the best case scenario, that you have a phone number and you reach out to members and say, if you don't want to be part of this texting, great, but we would love for you to join so that everybody's getting the same information.
I also just want to add, we recently have been kind of getting everyone's contact information updated, partly for the board to contact residents, but also for NCF to be able to communicate directly with members. So if there's things like the rent assistance for COVID, or any policy related, opportunities, it'd be really helpful to be able to send those directly to residents that would be interested. So we have a form and a couple other things that we'll be kind of rolling out and asking folks either at the annual meeting process, however you're doing it, or at some point in the next few months, could you update all the community contacts? And then also just wanted to plug Easy Texting is a service that's really easy to use, no pun intended. And we used it on a community in Alexandria, where you can, if you have everyone's phone numbers, you can send a mass text to everybody. It's very low cost. I think there is a free option, but I think when you subscribe, it's maybe $30 a month. But you can schedule messages. So if you are going to be plowing snow tomorrow morning, you can schedule a reminder for people. You can do weekly messages. I think there's a function to even have take a poll from residents. So that's another thing that people can opt out of if they don't want to receive those messages. But it's really easy to manage if you already have people's phone numbers. You can send them reminders. We use it mostly for meetings. So like, hey, heads up reminder, there's a membership meeting on such and such a date at this time. And that really helped make sure that people showed up because we're getting it right on their phone. So
I heard Carlton. Yeah.
Yeah. Carlton had a comment.
Yeah, we would have to text in 2 different languages.
Yep.
You might have to. Yeah.
So how do you do? Have you done that?
You could have another list, a separate list, maybe that's just in Spanish. So on the website, you can choose different groups. So you could have a group that's just the board. You could have a group that's all residents. You could do Spanish-speaking residents separate. Or what I do in bilingual communities is just do both. So I'll write a message in English, and then right after it, I write it in Spanish. And it's a little extra work, but it makes sure everyone gets the right information.
So I have a question. With doing both languages, another resident, Marjorie, Stephanie's taking a translating class or something, she said.
Yeah.
And we found out during that class that it's not legal for us to translate our own stuff, that we should hire someone that does that professionally, because you can get yourself in a bind and get sued if the communication is incorrect, because not everybody has the same Spanish background, in Spanish speaking background. They're not from all the same countries. So that may be something that we need to look at, because I've been just using the Google Translate to translate in Spanish, and it takes a really long time to do all the minutes or all of the agenda or the annual meeting stuff. So I kind of quit doing that, which is not fair to our Hispanic culture here. So we need to find out if that's a true basis or not.
And I have had that same feedback. I just want to let you know that, so the situation that I was in was that I was translating, and the translator was not a professional translator, and that I don't have any problem with that, but she was not translating what I was saying, and we were in a voting situation, and one of the bilingual people in the co-op stood up and said, I'm having a problem. Luckily, we had the attorney there. She just was attending to view, and she said, you really got to make sure you're careful, because they're not getting the correct information. So I think there's some basis in that, but definitely I think an attorney needs to make a decision on that.
Yeah, that was for the state of Minnesota. Are you in Wisconsin or Minnesota, Marjorie? You're Minnesota, right?
Minnesota.
Yeah, so that was for the Minnesota area.
Yeah, and I think that the bottom line is, we do the best that we can, but especially in a voting situation or a contract situation, you want to make sure that you have good interpretation, and
and that could be added to the budget too.
Absolutely,
if you can.
So just the other thing that I heard about, Julie, so that's called easy texting.
Yep, easy.
Easy.
Oh, easy.
Yeah. So I didn't write that in there and you told me about it. I apologize, but everybody, it's
No problem.
easy. Okay, easy. We also had a community in New Hampshire do robocalls. They got a robocall service to call everybody in this COVID-19 situation, to actually have a robo service call and remind people of the member meeting and voting that would be happening. So they got a call like the night before the member meeting, and it was a pre-recorded message. But I love that they did that, because they were like, it was actually a friendly reason to have a robocall and not a political campaign. But Julie brought up, we want to be careful too, because it is campaign time and people might just hang up. So,
right, and Victoria's been talking about that for years, Julie,
yeah.
with us using robocall here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So
we've never done it. Yeah, I love the idea of the easy text. I've never done robocalls, but the other thing that ROC USA is using now is Slack. I think it's a paid service, but boy, I have fallen for it. I've never used it before. They made it live this spring, and it's a communication for all of ROC USA, but I don't know how much the service costs, but we can look into it. But it's a lot of communication. It's like texting, but you can make channels and you can have topics in those channels, and it's a lot of cool things going on. The only thing that I would worry about is moderation, like who's going to moderate this in a co-op. But I wanted to bring it up. I've had a few co-ops use Reddit to do a restricted topic. That's another, it's like a bulletin board service for specific interests. I've had them do Reddit. There is like a cooperative Reddit, but they've done their own cooperative Reddit. So that's another service. I'm looking at the time, and I want to make sure we get to everything. In the time of COVID-19, I'm sure you know about Zoom, GoToMeeting, RingCentral, Google Meetings. People are doing paper ballots with mail-in envelopes, robocalls. And then another thing I heard about in New Hampshire, which I thought was cool in a bigger community, was they are doing drive-up ballot drop-off. They're actually just like in Oregon, we do drive-up ballots. And I thought that was a cool idea, so that people could remain socially distanced and still drop off their ballots. And they did it like for a window of time. People could drop off their ballots while driving up. So that's another thing that I've seen. The other thing I wanted to just drive home, in print or online, asking members what they think is key. Polls and surveys are a great way to read the mood in the community. Most online sources allow you to do so, like even easy text, as Julie said. And then sharing the results of the poll or survey is critical. I've seen a few boards, it just takes time on top of everything else that they're doing to collect the results, but also like putting it out to the community as soon as possible is important. People want to know if they participate in a poll or survey, what the results were as soon as possible. We can do those here online, and we can have results, in minutes. And so that's something I think is really important as you're moving forward. Now Julie and I are gonna do the next piece together, but I will lean on her. One of the things that I wanted to touch on is conflict resolution, because we said that we would. And so we want to do that in 10 minutes. But Vitally is a community, it was one of the communities evacuated. Facebook page helped them out in the evacuation of these fires, the wildfires. They were the ones that we were most worried about. But I'm happy to say, as of yesterday morning, they were told they could go back to their homes. But before they even became a cooperative, I walked through and I was walking through the park taking pictures. I took this photo actually, and it said, there are no strangers here, just folks that we haven't met. And I would say that of the 17, 18 cooperatives in Oregon right now, I have been most impressed with their ability to resolve conflict. They would never say, and I would never say that they don't have conflict, because they do. Every cooperative does. And so I wanted to start out by just saying, a cooperative came together to cooperate. It's a key ingredient of cooperation and cooperatives. So we may not adore every member, but resolving conflict is important as a community. And good communication, that's why we started with it, can reduce conflict. I'm convinced of it. I have examples, but I just wanted to go. Julie, did you want to go over this list, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can go through it quickly. Yeah, again, and I've told, I think, everyone on this call before that, to be proactive in communication really goes a long way. Making sure that residents feel like they're being heard, that their questions are being answered. I would say that's number one. The success that I've had just door knocking or being at meetings is making sure that those things are met, that folks feel like they're being heard and that their confusion or questions are being answered. So making sure you have listening time at the end or beginning of a meeting is really important. You could institute a monthly get together, like a coffee time, anything really, but an opportunity for residents to ask questions and maybe not take up time at a board meeting. But I'm thinking of Pamela Creek in particular. We've talked about this a lot about, residents come to meetings and they have questions and they want clarity, and the board's trying to kind of get through the agenda. So, carving out some time separate to make sure that people can ask questions is really helpful. Meeting facilitation is also important. I think there was a training on that at ROC Leadership Institute last year and the year before. It doesn't just happen organically. You don't all just get together and, once people show up, we get through what we need to get through and everyone's happy. Somebody has to play a role of kind of facilitating. So that's a role that we play a lot of times. It can be a board chair, but just to think about that as a key component to having successful meetings and getting good communication. And so, talk to us, talk to the other board members about really facilitating and maybe getting some additional training on that.
The one other thing I wanted to share is that, I am like an agenda freak, just because I do so much of the conversion work and trying to have people adhere to an agenda. And what they started doing in Elk Meadow out on the coast in Oregon, they started meeting, they have like a pie night every month. They got together and just exchanged pies and at pie. And I told Julie that I had said, hey, so what's your agenda for conversation? And they were like, Julie, back off, TA. Like, enough with the agenda. We're just getting together and talking. And sure enough, like all these really important things came out about how the board was not including certain things in a newsletter, or how they want, folks wanted more, and they didn't need an agenda to be able to talk to each other. And really, they just wanted to get together in a relaxed way, have some dessert and talk. And they're keeping that up. So it's just another example of getting together, and it doesn't always have to be facilitated and very structured. So
They do that in New Hampshire at Kim's place too. They have coffee time before the board meeting. So then you can hash some stuff out prior to the board meeting, and then it doesn't take away from the actual board meeting.
Right. Excellent.
And then just the last thing we were going to touch on was that there are resources out there if you're dealing with a conflict resolution situation. And I know all of you have dealt with this with interpersonal issues. Someone has a beef with someone on the board and shows up at a meeting and goes off, or you have a landlord-tenant situation that gets kind of dicey. There are professionals out there that do this work. Both in Minnesota and Wisconsin, there are organizations that provide mediation if you needed to hire somebody. Some of them may be free services too. But if it comes to that, that's certainly something that is worth investing in. I would say it's something that the TA provider at times has played a role in, but we are not trained mediators. So, if you work with an attorney on anything else, they can also probably refer you to a mediator. But it's like you pay for, professionals to do other services for your community. Bringing someone in to help mediate and resolve conflict can also be just as valuable. So some of it gets into legal stuff, but it's just another element of this is that it's okay to, go to an outside source even outside of your TA provider, if it's really something that is in need of some mediation.
Did you say if there's any nonprofit mediators available?
I think so. So I know in Wisconsin there is, Minnesota has a mediation center. It's called the conflict resolution. No, sorry, it's called Mediation Center.
Oh.
And then,
I looked it up this morning. It looks really, it looks really interesting. It's
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm mixing up two. Sorry. So it's the Conflict Resolution Center, CRC.
You should send that to us just so we have it in
Yeah.
hand. It would be nice to have, just in case we ever have to
I
use
can
it.
actually, I'll put it in the chat too. But
I think it's really too important to let them know about the cooperative structure. I think that's a really good, to meet with them first before they come in. And they usually would do that anyways, like to set up if there was a contract or something for services. So yeah. It's
very different when you tell them what kind of a co-op you are, and you always hear this. Well, and that's how it always starts out. Well, like the lawyer that we just hired, who's been doing this for so many years, that his biggest deal was that he was super excited to finally work with a co-op. So we were like wanting to jump through the phone and hug him.
That's always the best answer. Like, I'm excited to work. I think a lot of people are intrigued, and that's what I'd love to see.
Well, it's knowing the laws is where we're finding the problem. Is a lot of the lawyers don't know this particular type of housing laws, and in our state or any other state for that matter, unless you've been doing it like in New Hampshire where everything's been there forever. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, the one example that I wanted to say, there's third one down. We had a very contentious community, and the members were really not liking the board or trusting them at all for good reason. There were good reasons, but later the mediators came in and they worked with them, and they did listening sessions for about 6 months. Once a month they did a listening session, and I would say that there was a really good improvement. It wasn't quick, but they were really teaching the board how to listen, and I think it worked. So yeah, I can't say enough about that piece. So we're definitely at the end. I don't want to keep you longer, but I just wanted to see if anyone wants to share one thing that stood out today for you that you might not have heard before, if there is anything.
Mediation, that was good to know. We haven't had to use that, but it's nice to know that that's available. And then it would be nice to know what the process is, or who's the right people to contact. Would it not be something we should probably invite someone out just so they're aware that we're here and could possibly use them at some point?
Right. So what is
in Wisconsin here too, that would be something great for us.
Yep.
Figure out who they are and just get acquainted with them and know that they're there, because we have a situation going on right now that, we could probably use them.
Right. And I said it in there, and Julie said it too. We discussed this, that we talk about infrastructure improvements that we need to make, and those are absolutely necessary. But it kind of like mediation could be like an infrastructure improvement. You're paying a professional to come in and take a look at, the people, what's going on with the people, and not that the board can't handle it or didn't handle it. It's just one more person that has experience in resolving conflict around, and a mediator. So
like your startup is hard. You're taking a bunch of folks and putting them together and say, here, run a board. Not a lot of people have done that in their lives. And the 55 plus do well because they have retirees that have done these types of things for jobs. But you're closing deals on families who they're working every day in a job, but not running a board, and communities and join them together. So I think some of the stuff is the prep work that we need ahead of time. That should be part of the deal when you're closing the deal. Right. Having a good lawyer up front for eviction time, and having somebody help you if there is a conflict resolution needed.
Right.
We don't even know where, I'm pretty thrifty at finding stuff, but I don't think about getting a mediator. I've never had to use one. So it doesn't say that you wouldn't need one. It would be nice to do that. And it's not the same for us here as it is for Wisconsin. The laws between just our two states that you just go down the road and get across the border are so different. It's funny.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is.
One of the
Minnesota has so much more resource than Wisconsin does.
Oh, by far, maybe. Yeah, we're finding that out right now as there's a conflict in a community in Grantsburg right now who wants to become a co-op. I haven't told Victoria yet, but by the way, Julie, there is one. I'm gonna
guess what, Tori?
Yeah, that's what. So they're having a real bad landlord situation right now with a slumlord, and so, but I can't help them because Wisconsin's too different for me to help them being on the APAC board even. So.
Wow.
It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so envious, though. I want to say, I know that the resources are different in Wisconsin, but I visited Wisconsin twice last year, and the number of cooperatives there, I can't even wrap my head around. And I know it's not all, it's different cooperatives who have different attorneys and different resources for different cooperatives, but I'm so amazed. And Minnesota too. I was just like, wow, that's incredible. But
we're top notch out here.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah,
every kind.
So, anything else that that we can improve, or one thing you'll take away? I mean, I guess that's the same as what stood out. But anything that we can improve?
I don't know if this would be in the right spot here or not, but I just wanted to put it out there where. Like I ended up contacting Julie and ended up solving the problem, but where NCF is moving location, and you guys were like in our community where we had some individuals that have some of your homes, so they're like purchasing them from you. And so you guys had said, hey, this is our new address to send the payment. But then people were saying, is this a scam? Not knowing if it was the real thing.
Goodness.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I contacted Julie. I'm like, you know what? I will just send the thing. And then she said, we are moving location, whatever. So then I just went back to the person and just said, it's not a scam. This is our new address in the process of moving. So maybe just as a communication thing, when you guys like have individuals in the home, I mean, that are like purchasing stuff where they're dealing things with you with sending payments, maybe just a heads up to the board that, hey, if somebody asks you about it, that it is the real, being there is so much scam stuff going on today. So that was just a little, thing.
Thank you for sharing that, Marjorie.
Wanted to say too that what stood out for me was hearing ideas about different ways of communicating. And in our co-op, we have a lot of seniors who don't have access to texting or computers or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great idea to do a calling tree. And I'd certainly be willing to be on it. Who can speak Spanish? Who can speak English?
Right.
Who needs a phone call for communication? And I'd be more than willing to make those kinds of phone calls to the English-speaking communities, the seniors and so forth. And we could put that in our newsletter too, saying we're starting a calling tree for those of you who don't have computer access.
Yes.
This and this person is part of the calling tree process, so that again they would know, well, why are you calling me? Who are you?
Right.
So,
yes, that's important.
Appropriately at the beginning of the call. Hi, I'm calling on behalf of Park Plaza. I'm a member here, and I just wanted to tell you about, blah, blah, blah. The snowplow is, the trash didn't get picked up today, so look for that to happen tomorrow or whatever. A simple enough message to people would be great. I'd be willing to do that. And also, I think it would be a good idea to put in our newsletter when we will be needing help with things like, for example, we didn't have National Night Out this year because of COVID, but in the past, we've given a backpack with some school supplies in it to kids when they came to National Night Out. And I would love to be involved in helping pack those. In times when I have asked, do you need help with whatever, it's already been done because our board president is so on top of everything. But it would be great if that could be the newsletter and give people a chance to be involved. We know that's where it starts, just doing some little thing, some little bit of service.
And no contribution is too small, right?
No, it's never too small. And the problem is no matter what we do to ask for volunteers, they either don't show up or they just say, no, we don't want to do it. So we've been so used to having to do it ourselves because we've never been able to have committees here. And volunteers will be like, you know, we're just not able to do this today. Is there any way you can, like, you know, talk to your relatives or something? Because there's quite a few relatives to mow this space. And, you know, we kind of got ready for that when I went out on leave for medical too. And some of the dads took on the mowing. But we've had really poor success with volunteerism here. So the board has always just done what they needed to do because we don't have that. So thank you, Penny, for jumping in and saying you would love to do that stuff. We just get the volunteers here.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's not, I cannot easily walk around I cannot easily distribute things to the homes, but I can always help staple and stuff the envelopes and whatever. Just give me a holler when you want it done, and, you know, I'll do something to get over there.
Okay, to help in the office?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just in my own community association, because of the fires, they didn't pick up our garbage. They always pick up our garbage. They pick up our garbage on like, you know, holidays. And because of the fires, because the air quality was so dangerous, they didn't do it last week. And all of us, for the first time in a long time, we got on the phone with each other and just like even having that conversation, like, you know, because the garbage is rotting in the streets right now. So it's been so helpful to like just communicate. And I know that's pretty simple, but it's good stuff because I connected with people I haven't connected with in a while. So yeah, I mean, mostly on the phone, not online. So
right.
Volunteerism is hard.
It really is.
Yeah.
It so is. So
I'm sorry to say this, but I need to meet somebody at 4:30, and I could
go right ahead.
But thank you so much. It was a great session.
Thanks, Pat, for joining.
You're welcome. Glad I got here eventually.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll see you at the next one, maybe?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And don't hesitate to contact me, mostly about the presentation. You want to talk to your TA about TA things, but I'm happy. And I'm definitely going to look up on that Facebook piece because it's critical.
Yeah.
Figure that out. So.
It would help a ton if I could take this old one down and just start fresh and make it so much easier. I can't do it. It's not even working right for us. So,
Julie.
Yes.
Julie Massa.
Yes.
Sorry.
Julie M, right?
Yeah, and they're both M's.
I know, exactly.
I was going to say, I wrote down your number and stuff, and I just have a question. With me being a new ROC Association director, are you available to help with questions or whatever, or how does that?
Yeah, I think so. Mary O'Hara has had me answering questions mostly for TA providers, but
Okay.
But I think that I think she would be okay if you had questions about ROC Association stuff. But I will check with her to see where she wants. She might ask you to loop back with her. But I don't think she would have a problem with me answering, you know, as a simple question. But I will check with her first. I don't want to.
Will you be at tomorrow's meeting?
I won't. Because the North Carolina Co-op is having their vote to purchase meeting today, so I think we're going to have a lot to do tomorrow. So, yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, and stay safe.
Julie and Julie, just a reminder, the next session is Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So hope you guys can make it. It's the beautification seminar with Tori.
I'm not going to miss it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I wish I could be there. I wish I could be there.
Are
you going to record it?
Yes, all these sessions will be recorded. I will say this session, my computer shut down 20 minutes in, so I didn't get the first 20 minutes of recording, but I got the last 40. And I'll get the PowerPoint, so I'll post that as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Bye. Bye.